I got some ideas.
What everybody's talking about. Could it be Take Two with Jerry and Debbie? Well, we sure hope so, because this is your show. And we just love when you participate, because you take the show to great heights, and you do so. You're so amazing with it. We sit in awe of you, the Take Two family. I'm going to give you the number, because when we introduce this topic, I think you're going to have a lot to say about it. Now, you're going to have to maybe think about it for a little bit before you pick up the phone. But I feel that this is something that we can all weigh in on in today's world. Here's the number: 1-833-288-3986. Hi, Jerry. How you doing?
Hey, doing well, Debbie. And you were telling me that the fund drive here on day 3 at the Station of the Cross is just moving right along. That's great news.
It was so much fun. We had just a record-setting beat the clock challenge this morning, and it was phenomenal. Everybody was just coming from all parts of the country, actually, because of the iCatholic radio app, and it was amazing. So, but it's a workout, Jerry. I'm a little tired.
It really is a workout. So take this hour. I was going to say take this hour off, but this hour can be a workout too, because of you, our great listeners. Again, as Debbie said, you drive this show. This show belongs to you. Debbie's going to lay a topic out there for you in a minute. We'll each comment a little bit on it, share some of our thoughts. But you're the ones who shape the program. And Debbie, it's interesting that the show today is about the power of influence, and how beautifully do our listeners influence us and one another every day.
Oh, yes, in a very profound and positive way. So thank you for that. And we're going to need your participation to influence us again on the topic of influence. And where this comes from, Jerry, is actually a discussion I had with my sister. And she was sharing with me, she's very, very rooted in Scripture, and she was sharing with me how obviously Jesus was the master at influence. I mean, look at all the people that followed him and came along with him on during his ministry years, his very short ministry years before he died and rose, and he had that great ability to influence. And look where we are today. We have the Catholic faith over 2,000 years later. And so clearly he knew, obviously, being all human and all divine, he knew the responsibility he had when he has this ability and power to influence. And it's the same in a way for us, because we can be influencers to others. Look at our children, our grandchildren, our spouses, friends, people we work with. And many times when we use that ability to influence another, I pray, and we should all pray, that it's in a good way. It moves them closer to God. But many times in this world, there's a heavy influence to do things or say things or be things, and it can actually lead us into tremendous sin. And so we wanted to talk about that today, of like maybe how we approach this responsibility, maybe how we are aware of it, that it's happening around us at all times. I mean, even look at the media, Jerry. Look how the media influences us. And so I just think this is an important discussion. My sister and I had it, went on for a long time, so I figure, you know what? This would be great for the Take Two family. So I hope did I kind of lay it out okay?
Yeah. I think so, and we'll find out when the phones start to ring at 1-833-288-EWTN or 3986, those last four numbers, 833-288-3986. And if you would like to get in just a little more quickly and don't have time to get on the phone, you can text the letters EWTN to the number 55000. Wait for a short, brief prompt there, and then put in your first name and your comment or your question, maybe a small data rate. That depends on your plan. And, of course, Debbie, we are streaming live video, hello, everybody, on YouTube and Facebook Live. So a lot of ways to get a hold of us.
Yeah.
Take two
So
email too, for that matter.
I was just going to say that. Take two, the number 2 at EWTN.com. You can email us as well. But call in. We'd love to hear your beautiful voice at 1-833-288-3986. We're talking about the power of influence today. We are influenced by so many negative things. And how, on the flip side of that, we can be influencers in the world and change the world. That's what Catholic radio does, Jerry. It's changing hearts and souls for the better, for getting closer to God. I mean, Catholic radio works. I say it all the time. They always say, well, Debbie, what does it mean Catholic radio works? It works in the hearts and minds and souls of others. It gets them closer on the right path and closer to God. And so with that, there's a great responsibility. And Jerry, you and I have received many emails that we've had a lot of folks say, can you clarify something you said, because you have a great responsibility. You have a microphone out to the world. I just want to make sure what you said was what I heard. And that's very true. And I take that responsibility very seriously. What do you think, Jerry? I mean, I know we've talked about that. It's a big responsibility.
It is. And it's one that you and I don't take lightly. And for whatever reason, God puts people like you and me in this position. But as you pointed out earlier, Debbie, every one of us, folks, you are an influencer, okay? If you are breathing, you are an influencer, and you're being influenced. And I'm going to put a few things out there. For example, who or what influences you? Are you swayed by the opinion of celebrities or athletes? Or were your parents? Are your parents really you're an influence in your life? You look to them for how you want to shape and model and live your life. Maybe a coworker. What about advertising? Debbie, advertising is designed precisely and explicitly to influence us to take an action and to purchase a product or a service. So we want to hear, who or what influences you. And maybe you've been positively influenced by someone without even knowing it. And Debbie, if I can a comment on that for a minute. I want to share a personal story, and maybe this will resonate with you, our listeners. Every day after the show, Debbie, as you know, I head over to my local gym, and I swim for about a half an hour, about a half a mile. And right as I get there, there's one of these water aerobics classes that's ending. And it's really cool because, typically you got a little bit of an older crowd, but there's also some younger people in there. And there's this beautiful, beautiful soul of a woman. Her name is Hope. Perfect name for her. And she's youngish, about my age, young. And she has, about a year ago, she was in a car accident, and she can barely use her legs. She's had surgeries, and uses a walker to get around. It takes her 5 minutes to get 50 feet from the pool to the women's locker room. And I am so influenced and inspired by her dedication and her commitment. And I've told her that. And she beams. She just lights up when she sees me walk in every morning. And so maybe, dear friends, there's been somebody in your life. You're influenced by who they are and what they do and how they live their life, and that has helped you be a better person. So share that if that's happened to you. That's
a really good real life example, Jerry, and I think we need to hear more examples like that, because it allows us to look at people differently and to really assess situations in a different way. And we're all called to do that. We're all called to grow and to change and to better ourselves so that we can be Christ in the world and hopefully we're on a path of to holiness. And so, Jerry, that was very good. I'm glad you shared that. I'm interested to hear also what our listeners have to say about, even on the, we can talk about how it can influence us and make us change for the better. But how about if you've been influenced and it really took you down a dark path, and you had to really, go to your knees in prayer and ask God for forgiveness, because, that can happen as well. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you. So when we come back, we're going right to the phones. Denise, you're going to be first up on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, so hold on.
Father Mitch Pacwa.
Sin does not unite people, doesn't bring them together. Sin causes division and divides people up.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Listen to EWTN Radio day or night. Audio on demand brings you your favorite EWTN programs, prayers, and devotionals instantly to you for free. Visit EWTNapps.com and get started today.
The reason for our hope. with Father Larry Richards.
Once someone's died, you remember explicitly what that person said to you. Now, so we go back and we start off with King David. Now, King David is a good man to begin with, because King David, the word David means beloved of God. God says of David, he is a man after my own heart. But you all know David, right? He was a murderer. And yet God said he was a man after his own heart, because David kept getting up and trying, repenting. We have the beautiful Psalms. God have mercy on me, coming from David, huh? So he knew what it was to be a man. And so here's King David, and he takes his son Solomon. The last words of wisdom he gives him. 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 2. He says, I am going the way of all mankind. So take courage and be a man.
Always great to have you with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And Debbie and I both are big fans. In fact, the only news that I can stand to watch anymore, and it's a joy to watch, is EWTN News Nightly with Lauren Ashburn and Jason Calvi and Wyatt Goolsby and Mark Irons and the lovely, I can't remember her name right now, correspondent from Rome, and Edward Penton and all of them. Folks, EWTN News Nightly is going to give you the same news you're going to get on your local and network stations, but it's going to be through a Catholic perspective, top stories and daily reports from around the world. So make a point, mark your calendar. I set my DVR to it. And it's on actually twice a day where I live, at 3 p.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. But it's 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. You will see EWTN News Nightly with Lauren Ashburn. And Debbie, I know you watch that too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Jerry. Okay, just can I do a couple things, because I'm getting some text messages, and I just wanted to let the folks know. I'm at the Station of the Cross in Buffalo, New York. We are on the third day of the Spring Appeal, and we just got done with over an hour and a half of Beat the Clock, which means I was talking nonstop, so people are already noticing that my voice is cracking, and it's not that I'm sad about this topic. I'm very happy about this topic. It's just that I overused the voice, and I couldn't miss this show. And the other thing, too, is, yes, you're only going to have Jerry today on Skype. It's not that I don't want to be with you on Skype. For some reason, it's not allowing me to hook up and to attend the Skype session. So you're going to have all Jerry the whole entire hour. So, Jerry, just want to let you know that.
Yeah, and I will apologize for that, because
Why?
it's a considerable visual drop off when Debbie's not on Skype and only I am. So I apologize to everybody for that.
Well,
But,
they can notice how much weight you've lost, Jerry, from the paleo.
Yeah, praise God.
Yeah, what a
Down
great
45 pounds. Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. Well, congratulations. That is, I probably gained half of that, but okay.
God is good. God is good. So
all the time. Okay, the power of influence today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and so we want to hear from you, positive or negative. Are you an influencer? Of course you are. You're living and breathing in this world, like Jerry said. So who has influenced you? Who have you influenced in a positive or negative way? Let's talk about it today on Take Two. 833-288 3986. Don't just sit this out and take notes. We want you to participate. Denise, driving through Florida on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Denise. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Denise.
How are you?
Good. How are you, Denise?
Well, I'm very good. While you were on the break, there's two things. One, I was going to talk about prayer because it's so important, and the more I talk about prayer, tell other people that I'm going to pray for them, because I pray the rosary every day and love it. And the more I pray it, the more I feel so much peace. And the more at work, I tell people, I'm going to pray for you. They know that I'm going to pray for them. And I think that's been huge for them. Just the other day, a girl at work who had not been going to church for a while, she told me that, I know you're going to be happy with me because I've gone back to church. And I just feel good about it. So I think that influenced her, that I told her that I would pray for anyone at work, and I think it's make a big difference to a lot of people.
Well, Denise, something I can share actually even personal regarding that. And by the way, thank you for being that witness and being that influence for this individual. And I have a friend who I know is not a Christian, not a Catholic, really kind of I wouldn't say antagonistic to the faith, but just not really open to it. And he knows that I am. And so I try just through my friendship with him and my love and occasionally a few words to try to influence him. And it's interesting because I'll say, end text messages or conversations with, "Hey, God bless," or "I'm praying for you," or something. And one day he texted something about somebody, a third party, and he goes, telling me about this guy, and he goes, "God bless him." And another time he said amen to that after something I texted to him. And Debbie, I'm thinking, maybe there's just a little bit of a breakthrough here. Maybe there is this, maybe I am having an influence on him. So I think Denise is right on in what she's saying.
Oh, I couldn't. I absolutely agree with both of you. And I think the more we discuss God, the more we talk about prayer, the more we share our own feelings about God, and it just naturally moves to that next person we encounter. And Denise, the power of the Most Holy Rosary, you're praying the Rosary. That is a really strong weapon. You talk to you read about Saint Padre Pio, and he talks about that's the weapon you want to have if you want to really combat evil in the world and things that are going on and really break all those ties that we have to the world. Because I'll tell you, by you praying the Rosary, you are opening up the doors for the people you pray for, and I think that's really wonderful. So more power to you. That's a ministry for praying for others, and I love that. And I love how you said it. The Rosary brings you peace. Oh my goodness, yes. People who say the Rosary when they drive, they've even said they drive better. I mean, you talk about, driving you can have a lot of tension, a lot of frustration. And people say when they pray the Rosary, all of a sudden that all goes away. So I would agree with everything you have to say. I'd love to hear if you have any final comments before we let you continue driving.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoy your show, and it's been very helpful to me in a lot of ways. And all I can say is God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise, for positively influencing us and our listeners today. We appreciate that. Be safe driving there through Florida. Phone number is 1-833-288-3986. Having a conversation today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie about who or what influences you. I want to hear from somebody. Debbie, for me, when it comes to things like advertising, I just kind of recoil when I see advertisements, and I think, I'm going to purposely not buy that because it's everywhere. You click on something online, there's an ad in your face. You're watching something on TV, there are ads. And I know that's probably kind of a hard-nosed approach to it, but I try really hard not to be influenced by advertisements. And I'd love to hear from anybody else who kind of has that same approach, or maybe there's somebody listening who says, boy, I see an ad for something that I think I want or need, and I'm off to buy it right away.
Right. You just made me chuckle because have you ever noticed that at 10 o'clock at night, there's always commercials for pizza or hamburgers? There just is. And my husband, he is hilarious. He will say, after the commercial, and about 10 minutes later, he'll go, "You know what? I could really go for a pizza right now." And I said, "Oh, you're not going to go for that, are you? Didn't you just see the commercial?" He goes, "Really? There was a commercial on?" I said, "Yes, there was a commercial. You see how it got to you?" And so you really have to work hard, Jerry, to resist it, I think.
Yeah.
But it's so true, the power of that. Okay, Sophie, in Moore Park, California, on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Sophie. Thanks for waiting, and welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Wow, I didn't expect to get on. Hello.
Oh, hi, Sophie.
How are you guys? I am a first-time caller. I'm a little nervous.
Don't be. Yeah, we're really nice, Sophie.
I know I've listened to you guys a lot, and you have such a wonderful presence of just happiness, and I really appreciate it. I guess I'm going through a pretty tough situation with my husband. And I heard you guys talk about influence, and over the years through our marriage and our relationship, I've really grown closer to my faith and have really held on tight to it. And a really great influence is my mother. she is a very, very strong woman of faith, and she prays the rosary every day. She goes to daily mass, and it's just become such an influence in my life. And that, too, has brought me to the church, and that's something that I know that I need to lean on in hard times. My husband comes from a good family. I love them, but their way of communicating is fighting and screaming at each other and dealing with things in anger, and that's what my husband is used to. So he gets really angry, and in those times of anger, he can't control it, and he lashes out at me, not physically, but he can be pretty verbally and emotionally abusive, and it's really difficult on me. And I've tried to, handle it in ways with therapy and God, and trying to stay calm, but I am only human, and sometimes I just snap. And recently it's become kind of, I just can't take it anymore. And we have a daughter. And I guess my question is, in the midst of, setting boundaries and having him go to therapy and being firm and doing everything I can to help him and help him heal emotionally, how do I stay strong and be that presence of influence to him and still keep our marriage intact? I guess, does that make any sense?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. First of all, Sophie, let me just share something. Jerry and I are not trained counselors. We're not therapists. You have great counselors in Dr. Greg Popchak and Dr. Ray Garendi, and there's wonderful trained therapists on EWTN. However, I have lived a long life, and so has Jerry, and we've seen a lot, and we've been involved a lot in things. And I just want to say this from just a practical sense. First of all, the situation you're describing is not healthy for you or for your daughter or for him, your husband. And it's not healthy for you guys in a spiritual sense or an emotional sense, and could potentially maybe even go down the physical route down the road if it keeps going the way it's going. Okay, but let me share this with you. You talked about counseling. If it were me, I'm just saying this from a practical standpoint, if it were me, I would definitely explore every avenue I could possibly have available to me to get you and him to counseling immediately. It's urgent, because your daughter deserves to be in a peaceful household. You deserve to be in a peaceful household, okay? You sound like the most beautiful soul, and I love your faith. But you said one thing I just want to take issue with, because I don't think you need to put that burden on you. You said, I think you said something to the effect, I want to heal his emotional health or help his emotion. It's not your job to do that. It's his job. Yeah. It's his job. It's not your job, Sophie. Okay? And so there's so many resources out there, sweetheart. You don't ever have to think you're alone in this. But I will tell you, the anger, and I learned this from counseling myself, the anger that your husband is experiencing and he displays in his family is actually born out of a lot of fear. It's a lot of fear. Your husband has a lot of fear. So what we all need to pray for is that your husband becomes open to getting help to release himself from that fear. Because I bet you your husband is sorry after he lashes out. Am I right about this? Is he sorry?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
Well, he gets really angry, and then he gets real depressed and real down on himself, and then he just doesn't understand why it's happening.
Right, because he hasn't resolved the issues in himself. But I will tell you, it's not healthy for you and your daughter to be around that if he can't control what's going on inside of him. He should, in my opinion, he should temporarily step out of the situation and get well, so he can feel good about himself and he can come into the family as a really healthy, happy person. because he gets depressed because I'm sure he says to himself afterwards, why did that happen again? I don't want this to happen. I don't think anybody really wants the outcome of anger. Anger is a really hard thing for people to deal with, people who are dishing it out and people who are taking it. And what do you think, Jerry?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is making any?
Well, yeah, the depression and feeling down after having done so, I would almost, again, we're not counselors, but what comes to my mind is I would liken it to an addiction. You know, the addict goes back to the substance or the action or the behavior or whatever, out of, like you said, Debbie, that sense of fear and security or feeling a need to have to do that. And then afterwards they say, you know, I can't beat this. This beat me again. You know, how am I ever going to overcome this? So, Sophie, just a couple thoughts that I had real quickly. You have identified the source of the problem, which is huge. It's huge. And you said it's his family of origin, and they're kind of all that way, and there's all this anger. So the fact that you know that, let that be an anchor for you in knowing that this isn't about you. It's not that you don't cook well enough, you don't fold his clothes right, you don't keep the house clean enough. This is the source of this is outside of you and even broader than just your husband in this situation. If he is open to going to counseling, that would be huge, maybe the two of you together. And as Debbie said, it's not your responsibility to heal him, but listen, God does heal. God wants to heal, and he uses willing vessels to help with that. And you can help by simply loving him firmly, you know, in the truth, not taking willingly what he wants to dish out. But you can be a great help to him, Sophie. We're going to pray for you. If you want further discussion on that, email us at take2@ewtn.com. God bless you, Sophie.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck, and this is an EWTN bookmark brief. I just finished talking with Father Joseph Roche, a friend of ours from the Marians of the Immaculate Conception, and the book is Fatima, A Pilgrimage with Mary, published by our friends at Marian Press. Tell us, Father Joe, give us an overview of what this book's about.
Well, it's a beautiful picture book, what we call a coffee table book, with some beautiful pictures of the shrine of Our Lady of Fatima, and it tells the story of the apparitions of Our Lady that took place 100 years ago. It tells us about the situation in the world today. And Our Lady is really in this book taking us on a pilgrimage, helping us to meet her son Jesus, helping us to recognize that the heart of the world is Jesus and the Eucharist, and that if we open our hearts to him, we can do our part to change the world.
The book is Fatima, A Pilgrimage with Mary by the Marian Press, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog. EWTNRC.com is a place you can find it. This has been a Bookmark Brief. Thanks for stopping by.
We need Catholic radio because we need the voice of the church in the public forum. We live in a time that the secular voice dominates so thoroughly that we need to get that Catholic perspective out. Just as Fulton Sheen used radio and TV in the last century, we need to continue to use this means to announce the Catholic faith in the public forum.
Bishop Robert Barron thinks Catholic radio is important. So should you.
I'm Brian Patrick with Elizabeth Ficcicelli in tomorrow for Gloria Purvis and our Godly Counsel, Father Bjorn Lundberg. Morning Glory on EWTN Radio. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Okay, we're back on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Sophie, I hope you're still listening. We're so sorry. This show moves so quickly, and there's many calls coming in, and we wanted to make sure we gave you enough time to share your story. And I think we did, because there's text messages coming in already. Folks are praying for you and your daughter and your husband. A couple suggestions came in. Sophie, if you're listening, please talk to a priest or deacon that you trust and you can sit down with so you can explore some of of your resources maybe that are available at the parish. That was one text message that came in. The other one is a lady said, thank God you have your mom that you can talk to as well, so she can be, like you said, a great influence on you as well. So lots of prayers are going for your family right now. Be open, Sophie, to what happens next, because the good Lord moves fast. He does. We think he doesn't move fast, but he moves very quickly. Wouldn't you agree with that, Jer?
Absolutely, in his time always, but when he's never late, as they say. So you can count on that, Sophie. And I just wanted to share quickly before we go to Sister Janice and then Ann and the other callers. We got an email update from one of our listeners, Eileen, this morning, and Eileen had sent a prayer request in just a few days ago for a young lady named Alex who had it's a problem or a difficult pregnancy, and she has twins. And about an hour ago, Eileen emailed, thank you so much for your response. Please continue prayers. Alex just went in for an emergency C-section. And then 3 minutes ago, I got this from Eileen. Alex and baby twin girls are out of surgery, and babies are in, I guess it's natal ICU, NICU. And she says one is 1.5 pounds, the other is 1 pound, 6 ounces. So Take Two family, let's be praying for Alex and her baby girls, that they'll be healthy and grow up to be happy and beautiful little girls. So please keep them all in your prayers. Thank you.
Units, Jerry, they are so skilled and they're amazing. They bring tremendous comfort, and they can do some pretty incredible things in those intensive care units. So we're going to be praying. So thank you for that update, Jerry. Sister Janice, thank you so much for waiting in Garden City, Kansas on St. Gabriel Radio. Hi, sister. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Are you able
sister.
to hear me?
Just fine,
Yes.
sister.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
I just wanted to give an angle on encouragement for people. Everybody knows that Catholics are anti-abortion, and as sister, probably more so. And when I have somebody that's considering abortion talking to me, I have learned to let them tell me everything about why they have to have one, so that they're doing all the talking at the beginning. And then watch for some inspiration of some piece of what they say to give them another idea, an alternative. So one of the ladies was saying, I probably can't finish high school now, and on and on and on. So when she got through, I said, what were you going to do before you found out you were pregnant? Well, I was going to become a nurse. And so I shared with her a story of a lady that was at her same position and finished high school, got a associate's degree in nursing, went on to work a while, get her bachelor's, and then was helping to train nurses. And so, just whatever it takes to find something that helps them to find other resources that make them decide the baby can live.
Right. Well, sister, first of all, thank you for your vocation. And we pray for our religious sisters and brothers and priests all the time. So thank you so much for serving the people of God in the way that you have chosen to so sacrificially and fully with your entire life. I just absolutely love your take on this, sister, because I think we sometimes fail to realize that people do want to just be listened to. They want to be heard. They want to be able to tell their story instead of, people tend to put up all these walls. They think, here comes Sister Janice. First thing she's going to do is tell me, what a mistake I made and what the Bible says about this and what the catechism. No, instead you lead with your heart. You lead with love, and that's going to knock those walls down. Have you found that it just kind of melts away some of the defenses, and then you're able to really get into the other person's heart? Is that your experience?
Yes, it is. And then to continue to listen to them off and on over the time afterwards. That none of them have ever chosen abortion.
Wow.
None of them. Wow.
Praise God for that.
Well, you know what I was going to say, sister, and so many times when there's these obstacles, if you will, that seem to be in front of people, whether it's, some people would consider that, if they're contemplating an abortion or something of that, any type of nature like that, which is a grave sin. But here's the thing, they automatically see that block, if you will. They don't see anything beyond that. And so what you're doing is you're allowing them to have hope and to dream and to understand that everything will work out, and it could be better, it could be bigger, it could be, and it's definitely much better for the soul. So that's brilliant, because you're right. I think sometimes when people see people who are religious, not just sisters, I'm talking any of the lay faithful, they automatically say, here they go, they're going to throw the Bible at me, or they're going to throw the catechism at me. But you're not doing that. You're hearing them, you're validating where they're at, and you're giving them options, giving them hope. I think that is just a perfect recipe for people to really advance and be the best they can possibly be, like Matthew Kelly talks about. But sister, real quickly, but I want to go back to you, but I don't know if you heard Sophie's call right before you. Could you please would you and the other sisters please pray for her and her daughter and her husband? Would you do that for us?
Yes, I will, and thanks for your prayers, because that's what keeps me going.
Well, sister, I was just, unless you're in a hurry, I was just going to ask you one other thing. You mentioned that every woman that had been contemplating an abortion, that you took this approach of trying to influence them just simply by being a listening, loving ear and heart. What do you think it was, and it's probably different for each one of them, but how did you see them kind of have a breakthrough and come to the place where they said, no, I'm going to keep my baby?
Well, it's just dwelling with other options, other possibilities that the Spirit gives me ideas of what to say, like with that particular person. And so that kind of disconnects their only one avenue that I have is to kill my baby, and it goes to, well, maybe I could think about this, maybe I could think about that, and just heightens their perspective.
Right. Wow. Sister, what great work you're doing. Wow, that's incredible. I wish we could bottle you up and ship you all around to every city in the country.
Oh, there's lots of me all over the place.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for liking this show and sharing with us and calling in and being a part of the Take Two family. And you can be assured of our prayers. And thank you for praying for all of us. We really appreciate it, sister. Okay. Beautiful. All right. Jerry, did you want to read any social media?
I will at some point, but I just wanted to remind our listeners that Sister Janice's phone line is open right now, and we're having some really, I think, very, very insightful and some very deep takes on this conversation about the power of our influence, our ability to influence others, and the influences that are kind of upon us from without. And that can be people, it can be our culture, it could be advertising, it could be the actions or behaviors of somebody totally unbeknownst to them. So if there's been someone or something that has influenced you for the better or for the worse, or vice versa, if maybe somebody's come to you at some point in your life and said, you weren't aware of this, but I've been watching you, or just the way you act and live has changed my thinking on this, or my behavior, or the way I'm living my life. What a great gift that is. Has any of this happened to you? And if so, share it at 833-288-3986. 833-288-3986. Debbie, what about you? Have you, has there been, I'm sure we all could list a million different examples, but does one jump out for you?
Of if I've influenced or if I've been influenced?
Yeah, or been influenced, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, both. Well, because I've been in ministry for so many years, so I've been allowed, God has allowed me to see some of the things that you're going to make me cry. Why'd you even ask me that? Okay. Yeah, God has allowed me to see, how people's lives have been changed when they were introduced in a religious education format, when they've been introduced to God and they developed a relationship with Jesus, and I've gotten to see where they have, where God has taken them. Some into the seminary, some are priests, and some have large families, some are running gigantic ministries, and it's just, wow, it's pretty amazing. For me, I've been influenced by many, many priests and nuns. And I shared this early on. I grew up in a family where I still have an aunt who's a Dominican sister, and my uncle, the priest, who was Father Benedict Rochelle's seminary professor. That's my uncle who died many years ago. And I was influenced by a lot of priests and nuns. We used to hang out at the convent. In fact, I took my piano lessons there, and so I always was influenced by that in the rectory and the school I went to, and it really changed me so much along the way. And I can't even begin to tell you, Jerry, how many times I go back to those days when I'm really in a kind of maybe a dark space a little bit, and I go back to the foundation of what I learned early on, and it's really quite healing and quite comforting. I love being Catholic. I just love it. I can't even describe. I thank my I thank my mom every time I see her. I go, Mom, thank you so much for sending us to Catholic school, and thank you for raising us Catholic. And she laughs because she's like, well, what else would I have raised you? But anyway, I don't know if that answered your question. That was kind of a long answer to your short question, but.
Well, and sometimes we approach trying to influence other people in a way that we think is going to be best. And I love what Sister Janice said, because she has taken a different approach rather than leading with very important things. They're not unimportant. The moral question and the question of the soul and the question of, the baby and what the Bible says and what the church says and all of that. They're not unimportant, but she has chosen to lead with a little bit of a different approach. Maybe there's somebody listening, or a lot of us. I know it's happened to me. I've seen somebody that I've wanted to influence, Debbie, maybe toward Jesus and toward the church and toward the faith, and I have, been met with resistance, perhaps because of the approach that I initially took. And I have had to adjust maybe the way that I want to see my influence play a role in their life. So, if you've experienced that, give us a call at 833-288-3986. All right. Thank you all for your patience. Going back to the phones to Marilyn in Longmont, Colorado, listening on Denver Catholic Radio. Hi, Marilyn. You're on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, you two. I love your show.
Thanks.
This just happened this week, and I wanted to share it because you were talking about things that influence you or how you can influence. I was listening to Johnette's show just this week, and she had a nurse on, and she was talking about the effects of the birth control pill. And in the beginning, when it was developed, it was particularly for birth control, and how things in the modern world have changed in that it's always prescribed now for irregular periods, girls having cramps, and it's just become kind of the panacea for all young women problems. And when they were talking about the effects of that, I thought, oh my gosh, I have a friend who is spiritual, but I always tell her about things I've learned on EWTN. I shared with her yesterday this information, and she said, oh my gosh, my 15-year-old daughter has irregular periods, and that's exactly what they put her on. But she's not planning on having a baby. Why do I have her on the birth control pill? And I said, Kelly, you're going to come to my house and you're going to watch this show that I recorded, and then you're going to tell your daughter what you learned.
Wow.
And I just
was
wanted
timely.
to share that because so many of these young girls have these little things they're putting on their arms now for birth control. It's like, why are we always telling them, you have to be careful you don't get pregnant? Why aren't we saying, having a cramp now and then is a sign that you're a woman? And you're going to have major cramps when you have a baby someday. Right. Why are we trying to protect them from every little thing, and instead of having them cope with what their body does?
Well, and let's just be, quite honest. There's a lot of other things that can help with cramps and stuff. You don't necessarily have to run to the first thing that is recommended just because that's the new hot thing that they found is going to work or whatever. But here's what I wanted to, from a spiritual sense, Marilyn, I wanted to share. First of all, that was such providential timing of you listening to Johnette's show and then being able to have that readily available for your friend. So thank God for it was. That's how God works. Thank God for. Yep. Thank God for Women of Grace. Thank God for Johnette having had picked that topic that day. So it was all meant to be. But I want to just say something real quickly from a spiritual sense. This is just so obvious to me. Anytime Satan is involved in anything, he never stops with just the first step of it. it's like a domino effect. It goes on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And the interesting thing is, if you look at our meme for today about the power of influence, I believe Jeff Burson picked dominoes, if I'm not mistaken, Jerry. But that's how Satan works. He doesn't stop. And so before you know it, we all think these things are natural, healthy, good for us, and they really are born out of something very wrong and sometimes very evil. And so it's very interesting how we don't go back to the source of things and we just accept it for what it is because somebody of some kind of expert nature stated it, so we believe it. And it's really quite sad that we don't get the facts, we don't do the research, and to me that's frustrating because I think there's a lot of uninformed people roaming around, and that's where that's where we can fall into sin. What do you think, Marilyn? Am I rambling or do I make any sense?
No, you make total sense. And, it's got to be difficult raising girls. I had 2 sons, and, I had to take it from the other perspective of, you're going to have girls that are going to think you're square if you aren't rambunctious in that area. But I said, you are going to be so happy one day when you get married and you haven't been around too much, that some girl has saved herself for you. Believe me, you will appreciate that. But you don't now. You're not thinking of that now, but one day you will. And I have to say, I'm so happy both my sons have married the girls that they just know that they lived their life in a holy way. And it's so encouraging. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I just want to say real quickly, too, those girls and stuff that are just, and boys as well, because I raised 2 boys too, Marilyn. And the thing about it is if we're humans, okay? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to go down some crazy paths. The great news about our faith is we have a loving, merciful God. We can get back on that path and be in a great place starting right now. That's the lie I think that Satan dishes out to us, is that we think that when we get so far off the path, well, I'm gone now. I'm never going to make it. Where I'm going.
Damaged goods.
Yeah, and that's not true.
Goods, right.
It's not true. So,
and
right.
I think another point in all of this is they always say the body really hasn't developed to be 25, 26. I think to get these girls on a medication like this is so harmful for the natural maturing of their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad to think that at 12, 13, 14 that we are interfering with God's plan of them maturing naturally.
Right.
Their bodies. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I don't know. I have to tell you, your show and EWTN keeps me from getting a lot done, and I'm just addicted, and I learn something new every day, and probably my coworkers go, here she goes again. But this was just so moving for me, that show.
Thank you, Marilyn.
As always. So thank you so much.
God bless you. You'll be in our prayers. Please keep us in yours. Would you do that?
I will do that. Always do. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you,
Bye-bye
Marilyn.
now.
Thank you, Marilyn.
833-288-3986. I've got a couple of comments on that, but I want to also mention, before I do that, we need to be, of course, educated. I mean, this is about, Sister Janice and others have pointed out, this is about interpersonal relationships, heart-to-heart connecting and helping to influence people that way. But we also really have to be ready. As I said before, the intellectual and theological faith arguments are not unimportant. They are vital to the conversation to be introduced at the appropriate time. How do we get that knowledge, Debbie, that information? One great way is to fill if people look behind me, you'll see probably a lot of unread books on my bookshelf, but nonetheless, there are a lot of books and CDs and DVDs. And folks, I'll tell you, the best place in the world to get that kind of stuff is the EWTN Religious Catalog. They have maybe one of the largest selections of faith resources on the planet. EWTN Religious Catalog is at EWTNRC.com. So if you're looking for, you can find jewelry, medals, statues, scapulars, sacramentals, mementos of Mother Angelica, and of course, books, tapes, CDs, DVDs. I could go on and on a long time about EWTNRC.com. Debbie, as we said, you and I have been at the gift shop in Hansville, and my goodness, what'd you call it? A Catholic IKEA?
The IKEA Catholic IKEA.
Right.
It's unbelievable. It's floor to ceiling. How tall was that? The ceiling? It had to be like 24 feet or something, right?
It was high to get some of those statues in there.
I know, it was amazing, and it was incredible. I could have spent my whole mortgage in there.
Right. Well, I mentioned I want to just, again, getting back to this, we talk about influence, Debbie, and boy, oh boy, I think back to when I was, a teenager, where Marilyn was talking about teenage girls being given artificial contraception for things like acne and cramps and so forth. And my understanding is I saw an article on EWTN.com. There was a question, and the answer was by Judy Brown, who was the president of American Life League. She still may be. And she makes a great point. She says, while it may be morally permissible for medical reasons if the young lady is not sexually active, she goes on to point out that it reacts differently to every woman's body, and sometimes it worsens things like acne. And see, this is the dangerous thing about. And I'm not throwing stones here at the medical industry, but I think you were trying to point out, look into other alternatives here, because it doesn't. And one thing that I think that this might possibly do. I'm not a girl. I never was a girl. I don't have daughters. But once you get them on the pill for something, then do you think, Debbie, that might influence them later in their thinking, like, hey, I've already been taking the pill, and now, I got my boyfriend, or, they enter into a marriage and want to avoid conception. So, hey, maybe the pill's okay for that too.
Right.
So that
Well,
could be a long-lasting influence, is what I'm saying.
Well, I have to. That's why I said what I said. And please, you don't need to spend your precious time sending me emails, telling me stories about how a certain medical thing helped somebody because they weren't going to make it. We get that. There's all those extreme cases. We understand that. But I was referring to actually my girlfriend's daughter. That's exactly what happened. She had very extreme menstrual cycles, and they put her on the pill, and she is now living with her boyfriend. So here we go. And it just gives those it just kind of makes it seem natural that you can go into the next thing, and it could lead you into sins. You have to really look at this. I'm just saying, look at it from every angle. My sister grew up with really difficult menstrual cycles, and my parents would never think of doing that. They explored all these other alternatives, and she survived. She's in her 60s.
Right, and I echo what you said, Debbie. If there's a need, absolutely. This is
Absolutely.
between parents and daughter and son, maybe in some cases for whatever he may be going through, and doctors, and always maybe taking into account talking to a priest or a spiritual guide on stuff like this. So this is in no way disparaging anybody who does anything like that, but just the potential for maybe long-term influence on something like that. We heard on YouTube, by the way, hello everybody watching on EWTN's YouTube channel, our wonderful, lovely friend Tricia said, "Take Two is a very positive influence on my life. Listening on my way home."
Tricia, we love you and miss you. Can't wait till
And
the next Stand Tall retreat.
Mike was commenting apparently on when I brought up advertising. He does something that I do all the time too. Mike says, I hit the mute button as soon as commercials come on to stop negative influences.
Oh, I love that. But what about how do you can't let the screen go dark, right? So you're going to still see it, right?
Right, yeah.
I guess you could turn it off and turn it on.
It's interesting. In the afternoons when I'm kind of answering emails and doing other stuff, I like to have maybe some YouTube songs playing. I got all these favorite songs. And, so many of them, Debbie, before the song plays, you get the ad, right? And so I will mute the ad, and then most of them, thankfully, they say, you can skip your ad in 3, 2, 1, and I always click as soon as it gets down to 0. And their analytics are probably looking at me like going, this guy just really hates advertisements. Anyway.
Well, you're making that,
that's
Tom
totally
Peterson,
meaningless.
we should have Tom Peterson on the show someday because he has an advertising background. Tom Peterson is Catholics Come Home and Virtue Media, and he does a whole great talk about the influence of commercials and stuff like that in advertising. It's fascinating. In fact, he came and spoke to a bunch of my high schoolers, and they never looked at TV the same way, Jerry. Never did. They did what who was it, Michael, who they muted?
Mike, yeah.
Mike said that, yeah. This was a great show. I learned a lot.
Yeah, thanks everyone for participating. And tomorrow we know there won't be a person listening who won't have an opinion, a thought, a life experience. We've titled the show, Give Me Some Credit. What's your philosophy on credit and debt? It's almost impossible to live without some level of debt. Have you gotten in trouble with that? Have you been able to dig out? Are you still under a mountain of it? Do you avoid debt and credit altogether? What's your philosophy on that?
I guess you don't want me to bring my credit cards to the show, huh? I could fan them out and say, pick a card.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Anyway, this has been a great show. Thanks so much. Please, folks, continue to pray for all those that are trying to raise the necessary funds in their local listening areas at Catholic Radio. And don't forget EWTN. Thanks so much for your participation. We love you guys. The Take Two family is incredible. Until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll see you real soon.